Right then, welcome back to the channel. I thought I could do a video looking into United's away form. Because anecdotally, it feels like we've been mega at home, but we've dropped the ball a little bit away from home and certainly in the big games. Now, when you get spanked by Liverpool, it tries to refocus a few things, doesn't it? And it's put a bit of a downer on things that are very, very generally on the excellent trajectory. Because it was a big spanking, no doubt about it. Now, you've won the League Cup. You're in the quarters of the FA Cup. You've just knocked out the favourites in Europa League. And we're probably going to finish inside the top three in the Premier League. But the away form feels like it's not right. So I looked into it. Basically, at home this season, we've taken 29 points from 12, possible 36. Pretty good, right? Away, we've taken 20 from 13. Almost half. That's 39 available points. That's not so good. Now, we probably could have just been a tight bit better at home, but you're talking almost flawless. And it isn't just what we've dropped. Away from home, this is the more concerning stat. At home, 12 games, 8 goals conceded. Away, 13 games, 27 goals conceded. Now, okay, 13 of those came across 2 games. But either way, that's a lot of goals to have conceded. Now, it is obvious that we're struggling away from home, despite being relatively successful. Certainly in contrast to recent years, we had that unbelievable spell away from home under Ole that I'm not sure what it was down to. Maybe there's something that Ten Hag could learn from that run, in the approach maybe to that run. Is this away form that much of a problem that it's going to hinder us going forward? I think we need to look into it. So United last season were a disgrace, and the rebuild that we're in now is real, and it feels like it's going entirely in the correct direction. We crashed out of all cup competitions. We were nowhere near the last stages of anything. We ended up finishing 6th, and we had 58 points and a 0 goal difference. Safe to say that we've come a long way since then, and Ten Hag is doing a serious rebuild. Players such as Pogba, Ronaldo have been moved on. Martinez and Casemiro have been brought in. Players who were poor last season, like Rashford, have come right back into form. And when a team starts to make a rebuild, the best place to make that start is making your home ground a little bit of a fortress. If you look at Liverpool's success in recent years, it's been built on the fact that they've been excellent at Anfield. And that was one of the reasons why I wasn't confident going into last week. Beating Liverpool at Anfield is a mean task. Not many people get to go and do that. Their away form, by contrast, this year is the reason that they're languishing down 7 points below us in the league. Old Trafford used to be a place where people feared to come. We would probably, in the league, under Fergie, get 17 or 18 wins in the league at home. Post-Ferguson, we started losing matches at home. We started being an easy scalp. People didn't fear coming to Old Trafford, and I got to give Ten Hag his due. We've beaten Liverpool, Arsenal, City, Barcelona there. It's different. And if you remember those early years of, recent years post-Fergie, Moyes, Louis van Gaal, and even Jose Mourinho, you would hear commentators talking about this and that of one at Old Trafford for the first time since fucking bread was invented. Do you know what I mean? Ten Hag is clearly trying to focus on having Old Trafford be not just a difficult place to get a result, but you come here and you lose. And he's been very successful with that so far. The only games that United have lost this season at Old Trafford in all comps came very, very early on. We had the Brighton one, which was first game of the season, and then we had Sociedad, which was a load of bullshit. Becoming invincible at home should be every manager's first aim. Jose Mourinho did it at Chelsea. Jose Mourinho famously did it for like 9 years across various different clubs. And he was 77 home games unbeaten when he was Chelsea manager. Sensational. United will do well if we prioritise home form amongst everything else. But the concerning thing has to be the away form at the big teams. Now, it's the big teams that United are conceding the most goals against. Obviously, 13 goals against City and Liverpool, 4 goals at Brentford, 3 at Arsenal. The 4 at Brentford we had prior to having Martinez and Casemiro, and before the players had adjusted to Ten Hag's style of play. Since then, Obviously, we have conceded, although Varane was off the pitch at the time of most of these, but still, we conceded 6 at City, 3 at Arsenal, 7 at Liverpool. We also conceded 3 at Villa Park. We seem to be struggling against teams, and certainly the bigger teams, away from home. And it's natural to do worse. I'm wondering, is this a case of wanting to play the same way at all costs? This is my philosophy and this is how we're going to do it. And not a lot of people are going to want to listen. But the fact is, you do need to be a little bit more pragmatic away from home. You do need to maybe go off the back foot a little bit. And maybe that's why it suited Ollie. Ollie wanted United to be a counter-attacking side. Teams are more inclined to push, certainly in front of their own fans. They're more inclined to push at home. This is our home. We have to go out and win the game rather than just sitting back and waiting to get a result. But that sort of sitting off really suited what United were under Ollie. It allowed us to get the best out of our fast attacking players, Tony Marshall, Marcus Rashford, etc. And it was effective because the mindset of being a counter-attacking team means you are solidly defensive first. And I'm wondering, now, against the run-of-the-mill Premier League team, we go out there, we get a result, not a problem. But in the bigger games, do we need to see Ten Hag adjust? Now, I think he's an intelligent man. And I think he's learnt, certainly in the performances that we've seen post-Christmas, we've learnt a lot. And I think he'll be hurting as much as every single one of us on the back of that 7-0 at Liverpool. And I think he'll have a trick up his sleeve, and I think he'll have a plan for it, and I think he will learn from everything that's happened this season and take that into the next season. This guy's a meticulous planner. That's what he does. When it's come down to it, big teams are obviously up for it. United are coming to town. Arsenal had to get a result to beat us because of the waviness that they had in the title challenge. We are City's biggest game every single season. Liverpool is the same. They've been on a bit of a trajectory back up after a really poor start to the season. It was a pretty bad time to face them. And then you have the fatigue issue, which I think is it's an issue. I don't think it's the total answer. I think it's a factor. I think you got an over-reliance on Casemiro. I think was injured on Sunday, and that panics me a little bit for the rest of the season. Because if he starts picking up niggles, isn't able to fully recover, you've got a problem because he's irreplaceable for us in the middle at the moment. But the worrying thing amongst all of this isn't just that we lose. It's the capitulations, and we lost the City game and the Liverpool game in very, very similar manner. And these games, especially the weekend against Liverpool, we lost the plot and completely capitulated. Ten Hag described the performance to Liverpool as unprofessional, and it's absolutely spot on. And I know that there was stuff slung in that changing room. I know that he went bananas in there, and I know that there's some people that will probably have had their version of themselves, the opinion that the manager has, changed in that 90 minutes. He will come out with an idea of someone that maybe he doesn't like following that 90 minutes. I'm not sure necessarily who it was, but, walking back, giving the ball away, giving up, throwing a towel in, risking cheap red cards, it was unprofessional. Unprofessional is the kindest way you can say that. It might have got physical in the change room after that because it warranted it, in all honesty. You should never concede 7. You should never concede 7. And yeah, you can argue 3 or 4 of their goals were a little bit on the lucky side, and probably you take them chances any other day. I mean, the XG was less than 3. If you look at the XG, it was a 3-1 game, and do you know what? You go, yeah, I'll take that. That was probably about right. It wasn't a 7-0 game. At the end of the day, they've scored 7 goals, and ultimately that's all that matters, isn't it? At the end of the day, lazy defending in the back end, completely unprofessional. I would love to have seen the dressing room afterwards and how he reacted. I like that he made him sit in silence. I want to know how he rectifies this from here now. City wasn't quite so bad. 2 or 3 of the goals were similar circumstances, and they're racking the goals up like that. Is there an incapability of changing the way we play to take the beating, to be able to sit on what we've already got and lost? I was with Rio and Patrice yesterday, and they was talking about the 6-1. And he said there was at some point in the game, Scholes came to him and just said, no more. As in, we do not concede anymore. And they conceded more. And where was that? It might have been said. And it was obviously said in that game, but it didn't matter. But where's the desire to, all right, we'll take our beating. We've lost. Let's not make it a fucking embarrassment, and ultimately that's what's happened. Could be a little bit of inexperience in the team. It certainly went west once we started making the changes, but there are some big and experienced players in that squad. We're not even one season into the rebuild. I think Liverpool had their 7 goals put past them by Aston Villa, who certainly haven't been considered one of the best teams in the world. And they, at the time, I think they were league champions when that happened, weren't they? Reigning champions. So, I guess it happens. And I think there is something in the modern manager with a very defined style of play just not wanting to change it. I mean, Liverpool themselves, their capitulation to Madrid was, it might have been less goals, but I think it was arguably worse in the way they just folded for Real Madrid a couple of weeks ago. So, we're not one season into the rebuild. We haven't been called the best of everything. It's one of those, isn't it? Another reason could be the amount of games, but the amount of games doesn't account for the City game. The amount of games doesn't count for the Brentford game. We went into them fairly easily, and all right, we've had 4 league games since the World Cup. We've conceded 11 in those. Again, a little bit of an anomaly there with the Liverpool game, scoring 7 of those. The team needs time. But I think that there is certainly a question on how are we approaching big away games? Are we getting out there and trying to beat them, like try and take the game to them? Do we think that's the right thing to do? Is there a more pragmatic way of doing it? I think Ten Hag is unbelievable, and I think he'll get there. But I'm looking forward to seeing those adjustments in the coming weeks and in the coming seasons, because he's going to be here for a long time. Let me know your thoughts on the reasons behind our away form, what you think might rectify it, all that good stuff in the comments. See you in the next one. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, 5-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.